Good evening, it's Joyful Christian Mystic Hermit. Well, I was going to talk about bilocating, and I had something else to read, a sermon by St. Peter Chrysologus, but I found really what I think is really fascinating information about this dodecahedron, and also the where is it here? The pentagonal. Okay, so it was this. However, energy is constantly involuting and then forcing outward. So like going in and forcing out. This is the energy of the soul, having to do with what is the soul? What keeps us going? What is all creation? What's the energy source from God and everything in actuality? So this poem came to me. This was back in 1987. I called it Centering. I read the poem. I guess I should reread it maybe. In some sector or face of equilateral triangle, there is still very much a woman here. The surface is broad and goes deep into the center of quadrahedron. Although there is but one sector of all the facets that make me what I am, they are each necessary, or the shape would not withstand the pressures of the universe. However, energy is constantly involuting and then forcing outward. All of this fluctuating God energy keeps the pentagonal dodecahedron alive and eternal. And I mentioned I had, I think, what was it? A sophomore year geometry. And I was unfamiliar with these. And there they were in this poem, even back then. But I also had a dream, or well, it was a vision of some sort, but it was at night, because I'd asked, what is the soul? And I was shown these rubber cones all over, coming from all around the entire universe. I don't know how many millions, zillions, trillions of them, just moving slowly, very slowly, but so gradually toward the center, practically imperceptibly moving, but up close, they would involute, convolute, they would flip inside out as they kept progressing. The cones were hollow, but were like rubber, and they would just I better put this down or I'll spill it. It's my hot lemon water. They would just, turn inside out as they kept moving slowly. All of them, all the souls from forever, including mine. That was what a soul was. And I was told, let me see if that poem's on this page. I was given instruction then from God. Relax and flow. Work with. Allow the rubber cone to be convoluted. Allow our soul to grow, to be altered, to be turned inside out. Allow the energy to roll with that rubber cone, in and through and poured out into that vastness through which all energy flows. All the universe, all the energy of all the souls. Just relax and let it flow. Allow our souls to be altered, to grow. Let the energy do this growth, and also let us, the energy of God also then progresses us as we keep metamorphosing in a way, but involuting and back out and over, just slowly, as we're all heading from all over eternity, universe, whatever it was, toward the center where God is, toward this light in the center. So I had asked, what is the soul? And that's what I was shown and explained. It's basically a very malleable form, but it was viscous. I mean, it wasn't wasn't really solid, and it was very pliable. And this energy would have it turn inside out while it was still moving very slowly. And all of them were doing that at the same time at about really the same speed. None were going faster than the other. So, lest we think, well, we're not worth anything or we aren't making progress. We're going too slow in our spiritual progression. Our souls are too slow learning or whatever. No, it's not a competition. It's just relaxing and let it rest. Let the flow of the energy of God move us to where we're supposed to be. But we have to want to be in God. We have to rest in Him. Allow Him to utilize and to do with us as He wills. That's key right there, though. And that everything is a natural progression toward this light. And so but then this other poem here of the, however, energy is constantly involuting and then forcing outward. All of this fluctuating God energy keeps a pentagonal dodecahedron alive and eternal. So at the time, I didn't have Google. I had had a laptop, but it was a big old thing. I mean, it was one that I bought from a company that constructed it. I couldn't afford. Apples were brand new. I was in California. This would have been this was 1987, and it was early 1987. Because mid-1987, I was having that back surgery that I died and everything. So this was when God was opening up my soul to all kinds of experiences that I had never had before, but that were telling me and letting me know that God is real, very real. So I found lots of information on the dodecahedron. So here's some information about the dodecahedron. It's special due to its perfect symmetry as one of the 5 Platonic solids. I don't know what that is, but I found out today. I've done a little research today. Its deep connection to ancient concepts of the cosmos and spirit or ether. It's linked to the golden ratio. Now we'll find out what that is. And unique mathematical properties, making it significant in sacred geometry, philosophy, and even modern mathematical discoveries about paths within its structure. So I'm still learning about the soul, just extended on from 1987, and what I was told then about it, and then these words. So, talk about the reality of God, that He would place these words in me, and here I am sharing them now. I didn't understand at the time at all, other than I had seen the image of these rubber-like cones involuting, convoluting repeatedly, slowly going, all of these souls going toward the center of light. But here it is. It's has a link with what's something called the golden ratio, etc., and sacred geometry. I wasn't familiar with sacred geometry. So here's geometric mathematical significance of the dodecahedron. It's a platonic solid. It's one of only 5 polyhedra with identical regular polygon faces, or pentagons, and the same number of faces meeting at each vertex, signifying perfect balance. So here's a little image. Let me see if I can get it up here from my phone here. Let me get back to get a picture of this. Right there, right up there is a dodecahedron, that image up there. All of the pentagon surfaces are equal, and they are all linked and create a sphere type thing. So that's a platonic solid that has 5 polyhedra, the different pentagonal figures in it, and they each have the same number of faces, 5, meeting at each vertex, signifying perfect balance. So consider all of this as understood by, in a spiritual manner, of our soul. So we have to have a perfect balance in our soul. The golden ratio, its structure incorporates the golden ratio, or the dodecahedron incorporates the golden ratio, a fundamental mathematical constant found throughout nature. I didn't know about this either, that there is a ratio called a golden ratio that's a fundamental constant found throughout nature. Unique paths. Mathematicians discovered infinite straight paths from a corner back to itself on its surface, a complete property not easily seen. So that's a little bit, I'm not picturing that really, but it is a line that is infinite, and mathematicians discovered this infinite straight path from a corner back to itself on its surface. So, I just put these together in things like from Scripture, the narrow path way, or a straight path. All of these can be metaphors for that, but backed up by science and geometry and mathematical figures that are truth and are connected with nature even. All of creation has this perfect balance and has these complex properties not easily seen. Now we have microscopes, we have scanners that can detect DNA and very tiny, invisible to the human eye particles, and the shapes of these things will be quite amazing to understand. The philosophical and spiritual significance of the 5 platonic solids connected with the, we're back up to the dodecahedron, its cosmic form. The ancient Greeks, including Plato, believed it represented the universe or the heavens, linking the physical world to the divine. So they made this connection between a dodecahedron, which they could draw a figure of it. They didn't have the means to see in nature. They didn't have microscopes, I don't know if they had the telescope at the time of Plato. Anyway, they had rudimentary figures, but, just such as the pyramids, how they were built has been somewhat of a mystery. They've sort of figured it out, but very precise and obviously meant something very spiritual to the people. These immense pyramids, triangles of four sides, four faces, the three on the top and then the base face. So the ether or spirit is associated with the fifth element, ether representing spirit or the cosmos, underlying structure of reality. So all of this, excuse me, has to do with understanding the workings of God and spirit and of soul from a point of reality, of structure, and of what's in nature and how it all connects with God, with the spiritual. And it's a different way of viewing. We usually don't think in terms of these, but just what is the soul? What comprises the Holy Spirit? What is the force that makes our souls be eternal even, or evolve, or how is it that we have spiritual growth? Well, it's all very, very mathematical, scientific, real, and it's repeated in nature, in all creation. And so we can view from this perspective. This is viewing from outside the circle. This is a different perspective that we often or maybe never have considered before. What's the structure of a soul? What's the structure of the spirit or our spirit? We talk about the Spirit of God and our spirit, how the Trinity dwells within. Well, in what shape or form? What substance is this? We don't often think in terms of that, but that's the reality. It does have an essence to it, a structure, and in mathematical terms, we're finding out. And how I had these words back in 87 when I didn't have a means to look up anything. Well, I could look up dodecahedron in the dictionary, but I may as well have been in Corfu trying to read Greek, I didn't understand it at all. Other than they probably had that image of the 5 pentagonal figures, all attached, 10 of them, which made a sphere, a type of a sphere. So that, I can picture that. And that somehow is connected with the substance, but of the soul, and with this golden ratio. The structure of the golden ratio is a fundamental mathematical constant found throughout nature, and it's symbolized by a 0 with a horizontal slash through, not horizontal, but on an axis slashing through an O, a 0 symbol. Nothing with this axis slashing through it, or an oval sphere, I guess it would be, with a plane axis coming right down through it at an angle, so it slashed down through. That's a symbol for the golden ratio. And then there's these unique paths that are these infinite straight paths that go from a corner, say, of the dodecahedron, and then back into itself on its surface. It's a complex property, not easily seen, not even with the greatest of tools, of invented means of seeing such things as even seeing the golden ratio in nature. because these are actual forms. So, the ether or spirit is associated with the fifth element of ether. Ether and spirit are basically the same, labels for the same thing. The cosmos and the underlying structure of reality. So ether is what is spirit. It's also what makes up the cosmos, where all these souls were as if suspended within the ether. So this is going to be part of eternity. An actual substance, there will be ether. That will be the element ether, and that's what spirit is. Our spirit, the Holy Spirit. It's some form of ether. And it's also in the cosmos. So let me get to the next page here. As a holistic symbol, the dodecahedron symbolizes completeness, divine order, spiritual enlightenment, and the interconnectedness of all things. All the souls are interconnected, all of nature. If you have a pet, you'll feel a connection. If with the trees, with flowers, with the elements, air, wind, and fire, and water, we feel there's this interconnectedness of all things. And that has to do with this dodecahedron also. This perfect symbol of 5 pentagonal faces or structures connected at their vortexes and then creating a sphere. The historical and practical significance of this stuff. Well, mysterious Roman dodecahedrons with various hole sizes have been found, possibly used as knitting tools, dice, or decorative objects. They would create things in their civilizations way back in ancient times. The symbol, this dodecahedron symbol, would surface in artifacts that archaeologists would discover. Things that seemed like dice, decorative objects, and even knitting tools of some sort would have the 5 faces, the 5 pentagonal, connected with a unit of 10, then dodecahedron. So it was of some great, spiritual and functional, understood by them, connected. That was, and by inspiration, its beauty and symmetry has inspired art, architecture, and scientific models, including connections to theories of space-time. So it's even being used today in these aspects, in art, in architecture, and scientific models, including connections to theories of space and existence in space. So, but that came from way back, art from way back, architecture from way back, would carry this dodecahedron symbol throughout. So it is some basic symbol that's very meaningful to mankind and to the world, to essence of being even. So I don't know if Carol, the fine artist, some of you others may be artists, I don't know, Koine makes beautiful structures, hands-on with wood and different media, boxes. I wonder, maybe he could do something, try to make a dodecahedron or something. Might be interesting. Because it can land on any of its faces, of its pentagonal structures that connect and become a dodecahedron. We'll continue and find out more. Plato said, God used the dodecahedron as the fifth and final Platonic solid for the entire universe, representing the cosmos or quintessence. While the other four, the tetrahedron, I think, was that one of the words used in this? No, quadrahedron. Tetrahedron, cube, octahedron. So tetrahedron is that 3, I think. The cube, which would be 4. Octahedron is 8. Icosahedron represents fire, icosahedron. And that represented fire, earth, air, and water, respectively. The other 4. So the tetrahedron represented fire, the cube represented earth, the octahedron represented air, and the icosahedron represented water. In his work titled Timaeus, Plato described the earth as a multifaceted ball, like a dodecahedron, suggesting it was the structure of the cosmos itself, embroidering figures on it. Key points here. Plato assigned the dodecahedron with its 12 pentagonal faces, to the universe itself, a symbol of cosmic harmony, and the heavens, distinct from the material elements. So it's simply the shape of the cosmos, including the heavens, including eternity of all. And this is having connection to me when I had my death experience, because I was drawn into the center, the very, very center, and all around, it was dark in the center, all around was light, all around the peripheral of the center of where I was, which to me seemed like the center of the universe. Well, it would have been the center of the cosmos. The cosmos is larger than the universe. The cosmos encompasses all. And God was there. So I had been taken in there. My soul had been. But it seemed to me very rapidly, effortlessly, and like instantaneously. Once I recognized I was dying, or that I had died then. First it was, oh, I'm dying. No, I've died, But it seemed like I was going at a tremendous speed, but I couldn't tell it. But it just seemed that way because I was there then in the center of this vast, vast, vast cosmos. I can have a name for it now. The Timaeus description, Plato described the earth as being like a sphere made of the 12 leather patches, hinting at the dodecahedron structure, and suggested the universe was patterned on it. The other 4 Platonic solids form the atoms of the classical elements: fire, which is tetrahedron, earth, or the cube, air, octahedron, and water, icosahedron, icosahedron. And that Is that a symbol of it? No, never mind. I'd like to see the icosahedron. Octo is 8. Is icosahedron 9 maybe? Or might be 11, or it might be 7. That's about all we have left. Sext would be 6. And that's not listed here, but tetra is, what's tetra? Can't think. I thought it was 3. Might be 3. 4 is the cube. Well, actually, a cube, though, has 5 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. 6. So, anyway, the cube is Earth. The block, or the 4 platonic solids. The dodecahedron symbolized a higher spiritual realm, or ether, the substance of the heavens, and represented the ultimate, most perfect form. The dodecahedron does. So this is from Plato's understanding. Think of how he thought of these things. That's amazing, isn't it? In essence, Plato saw the dodecahedron as the ultimate geometric form, embodying the divine blueprint for the entire cosmos, far grander than the elemental world. Come on, phone. Please. There we go. In his 360 BC dialogue, which is called Timaeus, Plato, he wrote more about this. Plato described the dodecahedron as the shape that the god used for arranging the constellations on the whole heaven, because its 12 pentagonal faces and 20-fold symmetry closely approximate a sphere he associated with the cosmos, or he's calling that the universe, rather than a specific terrestrial element. Later philosophers, such as Aristotle, specifically linked this fifth solid to ether, the quintessence, the divine substance of the celestial realms. So that's what, when I died, I breathed. I was able to breathe, and it was very clear, very pure air, and it reminded me of mountaintop, and also of like another time when I'd had a vision, it was sort of like operating room scent also. So maybe that's where the ether comes into play. But we do breathe when we die. It's just with our inner senses. We don't breathe with our mouths. We don't have any mouths. But there's a breathing that goes on, an intake and an outtake. It just happens effortlessly. It just is. It is. And we see all, but we don't have eyes. It's not like this seeing. It's with the inner senses. We hear, we speak through thought flashing and instantaneous exchange of thought. So it's incredible, and it's very effortless. It's very quick. It's efficient, and we will all be very happy with it. Trust me, we will. It's marvelous. And I've been trying to sort of consider, what will we do? I mean, like my mother wanted to know, well, she didn't want to just do nothing, but she was going to be a teacher, but of a different type of soul than she usually taught. Not English, it was something else. It was something different, spiritual of some sort, or spiritual by meaning non-temporal. And it's sort of beyond what we can know for now. but the process was the same. The gift of teaching would be utilized, her gift of teaching. And I have had the instinct that I will suffer. That's what the bulk of my life has been. It's what now? Getting close to 2/3 of my life has been in suffering. And but see, when we take away the human attitude that suffering is awful or a negative or of no use, and put in it that love and suffering is very powerful energy, that's not a bad thing to be doing. And that's what I'm good at, is suffering. That's been my main thing, and I need to remember this reality and to not do the complaining or let it get me down, because it's a very functional gift to have, is suffering, is to be able to suffer and to suffer well, to relax and flow with it. It's a gift to suffer. And that I'm sure could be very easily misconstrued by a temporal light, a concentric person who cannot see. Plato definitely was an eccentric brain, eccentric soul, eccentric human. He had a perception that was outside the circle. So he could see vast. He could see more than what a concentric person could. And most of us, even eccentrics though, we limit ourselves because we're so busy feeling guilty that we're different or odd or considered eccentric. We still have too much ego. I have to die to self more. And I've done a lot of it lately in the last few years, of dying to self, because then, and dying to the id, the ego inside, because it doesn't matter what people think of me. And then we are more free to be what God created us to be. So here's the 5 regular solids, or the Platonic solids, talked about a little bit more. The tetrahedron, fire, composed of 4 equilateral triangular faces. So they're triangles, but 4. So that makes the figure, the 3 sides and the base. 4 equilateral triangular faces. Plato linked it to fire because its sharp points and edges symbolize the piercing, stabbing heat of flames. Cube or hexahedron, earth. So cube does have the 6 faces, 6 square faces. Hexahedron. It represents earth due to its stability and grounded nature, allowing it to sit flat and firm. See, that was before they knew that the earth was round, evidently. Octahedron, or air, is composed of 8 equilateral triangular faces. Its airy lightness and smooth parts suggested to Plato that it could drift easily like air. Oh, good. Here we get to icosahedron, water, composed of 20 equilateral triangular faces. Because it has the most faces and is the most nearly spherical of the first 4, it represents the fluidity of water that flows out of one's hands. The dodecahedron, universe or ether, composed of 12 regular pentagonal faces. It symbolizes the whole heaven, or the framework of the universe itself. A Platonic solid, a solid according to Plato, must meet these criteria. congruent faces. Every face is the same regular polygon. Every face, if it's a triangle, they all have to be triangular in that solid. If it's a square, they all must be a square. Identical vertices. The same number of faces meet at every corner or vertex. Like the three top triangles. They all meet at the peak up there, and the bases, those corners meet each triangle, and the base triangle meets all of them, all of the points of the vertexes. Convexity. The shape has no indentations or caves in it. No pits, no caves, no indentations. With nature and biology. These are examples of some of these figures, these microscopic organisms. Certain marine algae, specifically the unicellular phytoplankton, Barodosphaera bigelowi, develop a protective shell, a cocosphere, made of 12 pentagonal plates, forming a near-perfect dodecahedron. So now with our abilities through instrumentation to see microscopic organisms, they have found this certain type of marine algae to be nearly a perfect dodecahedron. So it's like nature and reality is proving Plato's sight of what he saw, what he envisioned, and what he expressed and created through diagramming, through developing, taking a triangle and making it into a three-dimensional shape, or tetrahedron. So it could be, I would suspect, that Plato, since he believed in God, he referred to God, that he had insights given him, just like I had these words in this poem back when I had no means to really know why I would have them, other than through God infusing them in me to write this poem, and to understand that there's still very much a woman in there, in the equilateral triangle. Maybe sort of like the three faces of Eve, or something. Or did she have more? What before? Because if it was a solid triangle, then it was equilateral triangle. But if I'm multidimensional. Our souls and everything aren't just a one-dimensional thing. It had bulk to it. It was a cone. It was could involute and convolute and move and stretch, and had life. Our souls. So we do too. So we probably deep inside, or what maybe it'll say here, something about human beings and our genes, or I think they say the smallest particle, at least maybe it's too late, maybe they already have a smaller one, was a quark. They called it a quark, Q-U-A-R-K. That was probably 30 or 40 years ago. They had discovered the quark with high-powered microscopes. Crystals. Some minerals, such as a garnet, that's a dark reddish, brownish natural stone, a gemstone, naturally form a rhombic dodecahedron, with 12 diamond-shaped faces. The mineral pyrite can form a pyrrhohedron, which has 12 pentagonal faces but is not a regular dodecahedron because the faces are not identical. Pomegranates. Here's the fruit. When pomegranate seeds grow and press tightly against each other, they often deform into irregular rhombic dodecahedrons to maximize the use of space. So they create that just naturally in nature. Viruses, the adenovirus, or I suppose it's pronounced adenovirus, can form a dodecahedral structure, appearing as 5 or 6 pointed stars that assemble into this 12-sided shape. While the dodecahedron is a complex geometric shape, it appears in various historical, natural, and modern contexts. They have found over 100 small, this is in Roman period, they have found over 100 small hollow bronze objects shaped like dodecahedrons have been found throughout Europe, dating to the 2nd through 4th century AD. Their purpose remains a mystery, with theories ranging from astrological tools and candle holders to knitting gauges for making gloves. Similar small gold decahedron artifacts have been discovered in Vietnam along the maritime Silk Road, likely reflecting Mediterranean trade influence. Plato has further description here of associating 4 of the 5 regular polyhedra, or Platonic solids, with the classical elements. Like we've already said, the tetrahedron is with fire, the cube with earth, the octahedron with air, and the icosahedron, that's 20 pentagonal figures, formed together, linked together at the vortexes, is connected with water. The 5th construction, unlike the other solids, the dodecahedron was not linked to a terrestrial element. Plato noted it was the last construction used by the divine craftsman or god for the cosmos. Sphere proximity. Plato likely chose the dodecahedron for the universe because among the Platonic solids, it most closely approximates a perfect sphere. And from what I understood when I was dead, and also from the vision of all these cones involuting and going into its sort of center, is that the cosmos is a sphere, that everything, all eternity, is contained in a sphere of some sort, and probably no end to the sphere, endless sphere, infinite, but a spherical aspect to it. Zodiac connection. Plato's description of it being used for the whole heaven has been interpreted by later philosophers as a reference to its 12 pentagonal faces. So I think that connects somehow with the zodiac. The zodiac has been around a long, long time. And I don't deal with that. I think that gets into astrology and stuff, and horoscopes perhaps, but I'd have to check. I need to recheck what the zodiacs, especially, and if it's in with. There's all connections and means, but I don't go into things that have been misused to read fortunes and things, or to read the future in people. Just goes against my inner gut level sense of wait upon the Lord. And that's where also false mystics get into it, where they start reading someone's future for them, telling them what's going to happen. If we're in the present and in God, and God dwells in us, the Holy Trinity is in us, we just stay with the flow of God. We don't need to know what's ahead, because what will be will be. And it starts to interfere with faith and trust, and using our own connection with God, our own communication. We're starting to rely on outside elements or outside persons who are in the center of themselves, caught up in their own powers, so to speak, and they're fallible. They can make error, so it's sort of just a waste. Padre Pio he knew, he could see ahead. He did not tell people unless there was some very urgent or necessary reason. And say, but Jesus would leave clues, little tips of sort of like a riddle, and let the person sort of figure it out. But he knew things in advance. And sometimes we do too, or we sense, or God, the Holy Spirit lets us know, or we get a sense of something going to happen. And I had that very strongly once. It was my eldest daughter, and they had decided to go to some place, Gatlinburg, Tennessee, to get married the last day of 2000. And it was bad weather, and I had this I wasn't going, I couldn't travel by car like that. And they had sort of done, this is what made it awkward, was that her husband, her fiance, they did it as like a thing against me. Because I had invited them if they wanted to consider getting married in the Catholic Church. I said, you would need to, become Catholic in 6 months, it's 6 months process of waiting to get married, which they had the time when I invited them. And I figured they wouldn't want to, but I thought, well, I should invite. She was going to get married at a Methodist church in the city where she lived, where I could have gotten driven there. But then she decided against that, and they weren't sure where. And I said, well, you're welcome to consider Catholicism. I had never asked her. I had never suggested it to her. And I did it as an invitation, not as, oh, you should. But that made her fiance angry or something. Or she felt, I don't know what. But I myself felt, well, I would be remiss not offering something that was so wonderful in case she wanted to consider it. Consider becoming Catholic. And then being married in the Catholic Church. Have a church home. Because she didn't belong to the Methodist church in her city, in her neighborhood where she was. She was in a downtown area, historic area. So it wasn't, but I was, I didn't want her just to then not get married in any church at all. But then her husband or fiance wanted to get married in this chapel down in Tennessee. And maybe it wasn't just to cut me out, but she knew I couldn't travel, so I couldn't go. But this is what made it awkward. I had one of my things, big, strong, oh my goodness, a forewarning, a foreboding that something very bad was going to happen. And I panicked, and I was so concerned. My mom trusted it. Even my ex-husband asked my son, and because my ex-husband had been freaked by me, by knowing things, although I didn't know it at the time, that he was freaked or that I was getting things, that he didn't have it either. I thought everybody had this sense, inner sense of good or bad things, or see flashes of what was happening at times. And my son said, "Oh, yeah, she gets these, and she's usually right." Well, so but they decided to go ahead with it. But my other daughter was going down, riding with some people, and my son, how was he? He was riding with someone else or something. And but I got this couple that I knew, and we prayed the rosary all during the time that they would be traveling. I mean, we went on for hours. And then at the time of the wedding, we prayed. Well, I didn't know how long the wedding would be. It turned out it was 5 minutes long. My daughter mentioned that she regretted. She says, "Well, it was very cheesy, Mom." She brought the video for me to see. She felt bad. And that made all the difference, that I knew that but I felt bad because it was like the perfect storm was going to happen. I would hear the music. It was just awful until I got this other couple to pray with me. It's wonderful to pray in a group. The three of us would pray the rosary for the safety of their travels, their driving. And I didn't know anything that went on until they got back. But nothing catastrophic happened that I knew of. But the daughter that was the sister, her maid of honor, told me that on the way back, the car got stuck on ice or something like that. And she thought they were going to get hit. It was on a curve or something in these mountains. And she was very frightened and ready to get out. But then they were able to move, or somebody got out and pushed them out or something, so they'd not be stuck in the middle of the road, sort of sideways or something. It was very frightening to her. And she had told me then that she also took the scapular I'd given her and wore it because she was concerned. But my son later taunted. He says, "Nothing happened here. You said something was going to happen." And I said, "Well, you didn't know how much that the Canes and I were praying the rosary for hours. We prayed it over and over and over for everyone's safety." And I said, "We'll never know. We'll never know until we're off this earth, probably." But I said, "I think Mary protected everyone." And I said, "Your sister did have this horrible thing that would have been a disaster, but at the last minute they got moved off the ice, able to keep going." But you just don't know. But I talked it over with my mother, whether I should say something, and she felt I should, and I did too then, because I thought, what if something happened and I hadn't said anything? But that's different than like reading someone's future. But where do these things come from? These senses, that foreboding that I had. And I remember now exactly where I was when it first hit. I was at a stoplight. And I heard there had been some movie called The Perfect Storm. And I could hear this theme music of The Perfect Storm. And then I had this thing that was connected with the wedding and with their travel, going there. It wasn't anything about coming back. It was just some big calamity, a warning. And I even checked, could they fly there, or anything but drive. But my daughter, the bride, oh no, everybody, we don't need that. We're too costly and can't get our tickets in time or whatever. But it all worked out okay. But who knows? But it was quite something. Plato's description of the zodiac connection is of it being used for the whole heaven has been interpreted by later philosophers as a reference to its 12 pentagonal faces. So just leave with that. Following Plato. So anyway, that's just an example of getting a little off topic, but of what do we do? What's our responsibility when we sense something or we're being shown something or experience something and know and don't want to risk not saying something? It can get tricky. But where do these senses come from? Well, from God, from the Trinity who dwells within us. But it is a sense. It's an ether. It's a maybe part of the golden ratio. Maybe it is ether quintessence. Who knows? But it's maybe it's spirit ascension. Dealing in modern sacred geometry and metaphysics, it is associated with higher consciousness. So let's read this part. This could be helpful to us. Ether or quintessence, following Plato, Aristotle, and later Neoplatonists, formally identified it with ether, the fifth element, representing the celestial material of the heavens and spirit. It is also a primary symbol of cosmic harmony and divine creation, representing the ideal form of the universe and the interconnectedness of all things. We've had that before. The golden ratio talks about it, linking to the underlying organizing principles of nature and growth. Like, how do plants really grow? How does nature grow? How do spores grow? How do mushrooms grow? Or, different elements, fungi. I had that tree that got cut down. When it got cut down, both of them, it had the strangest stuff growing on the trees. Some kind of very strange, and it would be interesting if somebody had access or some scientist could have taken what goo was on those trees, on the bark and underneath the bark in places, and study it scientifically to see what it was. What creation was that? So in modern sacred geometry and metaphysics, the spiritual ascension is associated with higher consciousness, meditation, and the balancing of the higher chakras, the third eye and crown. And I have had experience with the third eye, is right up in here, and the crown right up here. I have had energy come from here and from here. This and this have affected electric things in houses I've had. And it was this and this that caused a transformer to blow out. I was laying in the pew, my head was like this, the transformer was outside. I didn't know it was there when I was praying, but that's what blew. And it was way out, and this part of my head was aimed at it, and I'd had a very profound deep spiritual insight about priests, about the holiness of and how God is pleased by a very spiritually inclined type of priest, a priest that has this holiness of a very spiritual and pure essence. It's very pleasing to God. And what God was trying to teach me, because I had been so devastated by running into bad things, but God wanted me to see, or the Holy Spirit wanted me to experience the joy that God has when we have a goodness, a purity of love and goodness in someone very good, who God wants to be very good, who's very holy. It is combustible. It is powerful energy, far more so than a negative, than any kind of an evil influence. The holy influence is so far more pleasing in positive than is in any negative. So God wanted me to focus on rejoicing in the holy ones, the holy priests, the holy souls. And it was just such a powerful influx of energy into me and out through the top of my head, out the back, right in line where a transformer was, straight out and up high at the same angle. And right at the instant of this insight of this great joy of God with when we do good, how it pleases Him to such a powerful degree compared to when we do bad. And to focus and rejoice in the good, the others who do good. The priest was an example of someone I was praying about at the time, because I was so horrified. I was new as a Catholic, and I, didn't know quite what to do about facing that anyone could do bad who was supposed to be holy. We're all to be holy, though. But yet it took them a couple of days to get that fixed. That they were without power, that took out their computers in the rectory, which was right beside the sanctuary where I was in. But the pole was right behind. So, and I knew immediately when it happened, because I felt this incredible surge of power in me. And that's how positivity, pure love, and having an insight that is so powerfully positive, it totally reversed my way of thinking. And then to understand that love and God's pleasure in doing right and good, any of us, is so powerfully pleasurable to God that it creates a huge force of energy. Massive. And that kind of energy within us it comes out through the crown. And some can be here. But this is often what we can see or sense with. So how does it happen? See, that's what all this is trying to explain. The mechanical workings of it, the energy, the ether, the elements of water, fire, earth, and air. Like that miracle of Saint Spiridon with the piece of pottery or tile, and how the water started dripping out of it, and the fire leapt up. Even though holding on to it, the fire leapt up. Water was dripping out, And he opened his hands, and it was just dust, clay dust then, he was showing, that how God in three persons can be in one, in unity, in one, have a oneness. Because the water and the fire and the soil, the clay soil, can make a brick or a piece of tile or a piece of pottery. So that was his powerful example that caused Arius, the Arian, the Arius who developed this theory that Jesus wasn't really also God. He wasn't part of there was no Trinity. He was a separate. So that convinced him that the power of that miracle made such sense to him. He realized, yes, it's possible. Yes, it is. And there's a piece of art where he's covering his mouth. Arius is covering his mouth. Like, I've stopped talking. I'm wrong. Admitting it, in this piece of art. And he did in person at the Council of Nicaea. So, see if there's anything else of interest here. That's different. Oh, we mentioned the spiritual association and ascension of understanding these things. The golden ratio, it's that symbol equals 1.618, is often called nature's mathematical masterpiece because it governs growth patterns that maximize efficiency and exposure. So I guess that must be a ratio sign. I'm so long since, what has it been? 60 years since I had this in school. But it's that symbol, the circle with the slash through it on an angle, equals 1.618. It's a ratio called the golden ratio. And it always evidently works in figuring any aspects of nature and growth patterns. So here's plant phyllotaxis. The arrangement of leaves around a stem often follows the golden angle, approximately 137.5. That's the angle of that line that goes through, ensuring each leaf receives maximum sunlight and rain without being shaded by those above. I didn't know that about plants and trees, that the actual leaves in the formation that they grow on a stem are on this certain golden angle, 137.5 degrees at an angle, ensuring each leaf receives maximum sunlight and maximum rain without being shaded by those above. Seed heads and pine cones. Sunflowers and pine cones display interlocking spirals in both directions. Like when you look down this pine cone and you see all those seeds, those little brown things. And same with the sunflower. There are seeds that are in the center of the flower. They typically consist of consecutive Fibonacci numbers, example 21 and 34, the ratio of which approximates that symbol with the slash in it. DNA structure. A full cycle of the B DNA double helix measures roughly 34 angstroms long and 21 angstroms wide. 34 and 21 are consecutive Fibonacci numbers, and their ratio is approximately 1.619. So that's just one 100,000th off of the 1.618 golden ratio. So close enough for me. Animal proportions. The family tree of honeybees follows the Fibonacci sequence exactly. Logarithmic spirals approximating the golden ratio are found in the horns of goats, the flight patterns of falcons attacking prey, and the cochlea of the human ear all approximate the spirals or the movements of the golden ratio. Human anatomy. Proportions, such as the ratio of the total height to the navel's height, the navel or belly button, or the length of finger segments, frequently approximates the golden ratio. So and the navel, that's where the umbilical cord was, that gave life to the embryo, all for the gestation period. So that has spiritual significance right there. Relationship to the dodecahedron. The dodecahedron is mathematically inextricably linked to the golden ratio through its fundamental geometry. The dodecahedron is composed of 12 regular pentagons. In any regular pentagon, the ratio of a diagonal to a side is exactly the golden ratio. This ratio equals 1.619. If you join the centers of the dodecahedron's faces, you can form 3 mutually orthogonal golden rectangles. Rectangles whose sides are on the ratio of 1 to the symbol for the golden ratio, the circle with the slash through it. Vertex coordinates. The Cartesian coordinates for the vertices of a regular dodecahedron involve powers of, that's not pi. I don't know what, I wish I knew what that symbol is called. Is it infinity? I don't think so. Anyway, it's +1, +1, +1, and 0, +1, slash the symbol, and a plus or minus the symbol, demonstrating that its very structure is built upon this ratio. So the regular dodecahedron its coordinates are identical, built upon this very ratio. Cubic relationship. You can fit 5 distinct cubes inside a dodecahedron, where the cube sides and the dodecahedron's edges are in the golden ratio to each other. So that, just these are just marvelous. That's the end of the, I could have looked up even more stuff, but it just gives an idea. For one thing, it's miraculous that I had these words come to me in a poem back in 1987. Words that I was unfamiliar with, terms. And then, told about the God energy. Energy is constantly involuting and then forcing outward. All of this fluctuating God energy keeps the pentagonal dodecahedron alive and eternal. So these are all necessary for us to live eternally. This is how we live eternally. These equations and the energy force, but it's all in a certain degree of accuracy, connected with the nature around us now even, and connected to us. That's how we have a oneness. That's how we have a oneness with one another, our souls, the way we perceive the energy that's in us, how it comes out of us, how we have our inner sight, which is very sensitive up in here, through our biologic creation, God's creation of us. and that these factors, these dodecahedrons, are showing up in different nature, and the golden ratio shows up in various aspects of nature, and of bees and things, and how plant leaves are on a multi, like on a branch of a tree, the plant leaves are in this certain specific ratio of angle to one another, so that the sunlight and the rain can be optimum for them. It's just unbelievable, isn't it? The connectedness, and how it can be proven through these equations and through these shapes that Plato started with. Plato had the theories for it. He had to have had infused wisdom from God on it. The only thing he got wrong was the cube being the earth, because in his temporal mind, the earth was flat or something. But he could see all these other things that no human, how could they even know back then? But he did, he was shown it. How could I have known these? And then to read about them and to see how they all fit. So no, I'm not concerned. None of us should be concerned if we can't be at Mass. We're still part of the body. That's how the hermits were. They were so connected with God and with humanity. That's how they were so connected with, was it Paul the Hermit? His day is today. Oh, no, yesterday it was. Paul the first hermit. He had a wolf as a friend, as a pet. And there was another one recently that was very close to a lion. And it seems to me someone else, it was Paul the first hermit, that a lion had dug his grave, or two lions had come to dig his grave for him or something. So, and we'd think, that's far-fetched or something. No, not through this. We realize that those who are so in tune with God, their dodecahedrons in them, and the power and the energy is connecting with nature, with animals, with plants. That's how people who, like Padre Pio, who could live on very little food, and others who existed on very little. Some would even say they existed on the Eucharist and water. I discount Catherine of Siena. She did, but she also was, starved herself. She had slowly learned to not eat. She'd given up eating, but it ruined her health. So I don't know if she had bulimia or something, or anorexia had developed maybe. I just don't know. But otherwise, if not, but the other people who did exist on Eucharist were healthy. So it's an anomaly of nature, that it had to do with their structure, their molecular and even the atomic structure within them, the energy, their alignment with God and with nature. John the Baptist was so aligned with nature that he had unusual qualities. Definitely an eccentric, but concentric people can. It's a matter, though, of love, the purity of our love, and the connection with God, as to what we can receive and perceive and work with. So it is important for us to, I'll repeat this, what he said. Many things here, but to rest and to flow with the energy, relax and flow, work with God, work God, See, this gives a different perspective on what is God. Well, God is pure love. Well, what is pure love? It's a very pure energy. If we could somehow examine love, pure love, with some kind of instrumentation of visual, of seeing into being able to encapsulate love, pure spiritual love, we would probably find dodecahedron forms in it, in the molecules, or in the whatever it would be called, the ether of it. I suppose love is more an ether, not a solid, but it would have even ether has quality in it. Air has things that can be seen, has structure. God has structure, in other words. Love has structure. And I think the more we understand this, the more we can respect love and respect God and respect love in as such as that we understand we can become love. That's how we can understand that God is love. Because love has structure and substance to it, even though we can't see it, even though probably there's no equipment at this point that could possibly perceive it even or detect it. But we can sense it. We can sense true love, pure love. It takes really relaxing and flowing, working with the love, allowing our souls to be convoluted, to be reformed and reformed and reformed, to be moved by the energy toward the light, toward the center, toward God, toward love. So allow the energy to roll with that soul, with our rubber cone, in through and poured out into that vastness through which all energy flows. Well, God, it's similar to the doxology, referencing God, through whom all things flow. God. So let us just go with God's flow and understand him as great energy and energy of love. And that there's a connection that has already been enough proven through geometric shapes and faces and solids and but also just forms that are not solid but are structural. But what are they made of? There's no real substance, like the line that keeps going and then can come right back. This invisible, infinite, or not invisible, but it's an infinite line then that turns back on itself and goes back into a vortex. So that's, how can you express that as a substance? But that's part of what creates the dodecahedrons or the equilateral triangles, or the tetrahedrons, the shape of a triangle. But you could put your hand right through it, and the golden formula, how that those angles from that and the degrees of that formula keeps repeating itself. And we'd probably find that in love, in God, too. So we're connected for anyone who's homebound. Really, there's no need to be lonely. We're so connected. You have to see outside the center, see outside the circle, and see with faith. So Okay, anyway, it's fascinating. God bless. God bless. Love and God. We'll get back to doing something with the bilocation. I'm sure bilocation has an effect, would have a force of energy and a movement, and but one thing at a time. We'll wait. We'll wait for bilocation, but it'll be connected. It'll be connected with all this, the energy of how we move, how our souls move, how thought moves, how love does. So, all right, it's thrilling. I think it's the existence of God, so real. God is so real. Enjoy your evening or your day. God bless each of you.